Welcome to the Digital Fireside. I'm Elle Ramsey, the corporate griot, a conscious leadership strategist and ancestral architect for women of color. And here we gather in story, ancestral wisdom, and reflection to see ourselves more clearly, lead more consciously, and walk with the strength of those who came before us. Now, today's fireside is not about quitting. It's not about entrepreneurship as salvation, and it's not about staying loyal to systems that no longer fit. This is a conversation about discernment. And over the last decade, leaving corporate America has become deeply romanticized. See, the story often sounds like this. If you're exhausted, misaligned, or restless, the answer must be to leave. Start something of your own, be your own boss, reclaim your freedom. But that story is compelling, but it's also incomplete. And because what I've witnessed, both personally and professionally, is that many people don't actually need to exit. They need clarity, rest, and they also need permission to stop performing certainty while silently unraveling. And so this fireside exists to slow the conversation down. Now, the reality is that for a moment, let's ground, okay, in reality for a moment. But according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, about 20% of new businesses fail within the first year, and nearly 50% fail within 5 years. And that's at the time of this recording, which is 2025. So among solo entrepreneurs, rates of burnout and financial anxiety often exceed those reported by mid-level corporate professionals. Now, research published in Harvard Business Review and Stanford Graduate School of Business has also shown that many individuals who leave corporate roles experience higher stress, longer work hours, and greater emotional isolation, especially in the first 3 to 5 years. Now, what surprises people most is not the workload, it's the grief. The grief of losing structure, losing identity, and also the grief of realizing that autonomy without support can feel more destabilizing than empowering. And this doesn't mean entrepreneurship is wrong. It means it's often entered prematurely as an emotional solution to a systemic or internal problem. Now, the desire to leave rarely arrives dramatically. More often, it surfaces quietly. And after years of adapting, accommodating, or carrying expectations that were never named, sometimes it follows success, it follows exhaustion, and often it appears during transitions where your inner life has evolved faster than your external role. Now, here's a distinction that matters. The urge to leave is information, not instruction. Psychologically, urges emerge when something in the system is no longer integrated. That something might be fatigue. It might be grief. It might be suppressed creativity. And it might be the nervous system asking for safety rather than change. So when that signal is treated as a command, people act quickly and often regretfully. See, when it's treated as information, it becomes insight. Now, burnout, misalignment, and meaning are not the same thing because burnout is not just exhaustion. Clinically, burnout is associated with emotional detachment, reduced sense of accomplishment, and nervous system dysregulation. Now, misalignment is different. It's the quiet realization that who you are becoming no longer fits how you are required to work. And meaning is something else entirely. Now, research in organizational psychology consistently shows that humans do not need their jobs to fulfill their purpose. They need their work to be coherent with their values and capacity. Now, when work is asked to carry identity, healing, expression, and purpose all at once, it collapses under that weight. And many people who believe they need to leave are actually trying to recover parts of themselves that were set aside, not escape the work itself. Now, your purpose is not a job title. Your purpose is not a profession. Your purpose It's how meaning moves through your life and through relationships and through your creativity and stewardship and contribution. Now, your profession, that's a container. And sometimes that container supports purpose beautifully. And then other times, it simply provides stability while purpose matures elsewhere. Now, when people confuse the two, work becomes overburdened. Disappointment follows, not because the job failed, but because the expectation was impossible. There are seasons when purpose needs protection, not monetization. There are seasons when stability is what allows truth to surface quietly. Now, discernment lives in knowing the difference. And there's a critical misunderstanding in modern day work culture, and that's the belief that expression requires departure. And it doesn't. Expression requires space, it requires permission and safety. And for many professionals, the real injury isn't corporate life. It's the compression of self that happens when adaptation becomes constant. Creativity doesn't need an LLC to be valid, and truth doesn't need a platform to matter. Often, when expression is allowed privately and without pressure, the urgency to leave dissolves or it clarifies itself. Now, staying is not failure. Staying can be strategy, it can be stewardship, and it also can be nervous system wisdom. See, a bridge is not a destination, but it prevents collapse while something new forms. And research on major life transitions shows that abrupt exits made during periods of emotional depletion are more likely to result in regret, financial stress, and identity disruption. And staying with intention is different from staying out of fear. And the difference is awareness. Now, this is the part that few people say out loud. Many who leave corporate roles do not become business owners. They become self-employed employees with fewer protections. Now, studies from the Kauffman Foundation show that new entrepreneurs often work longer hours for lower pay, especially in the early years, with increased emotional strain and reduced social support. Now, leadership does not automatically emerge when hierarchy disappears. Structure does not vanish just because it's self-imposed. If clarity does not precede the exit, the same burnout simply changes clothes. Timing is not just strategic, it's physiological. When the nervous system is overwhelmed, even good decisions feel unsafe. When it's regulated, uncertainty becomes tolerable. And many people mistake anxiety for intuition, when in reality, anxiety is often a request for stabilization, not action. Now, readiness feels steady, urgency feels charged, and listening to that difference changes everything. Now, we must choose consciously. Now, conscious choices are rarely dramatic. They form slowly through accumulated truth, and a conscious choice does not eliminate doubt, but it does reduce inner conflict. Now, whether you choose to stay, prepare, or leave, integrity lives in how the decision is made and not how quickly. So let's get into some soul reflections. So before we close, let these reflections settle gently. And you might ask yourself, what am I actually seeking relief from? Is it the work or the way I've been carrying it? Where might clarity be asking for patience rather than action? What would it mean to choose timing that protects my nervous system, not just my ambition? And if I stayed for now with intention, what might become possible? And if I left eventually with preparation, what would I want to preserve within myself? Know that there is no prize for rushing wisdom. Thank you for gathering with me at the Digital Fireside. May the story shared here awaken the leader within you. the griot who carries both memory and vision. Sit with these reflections, allow them to shape your choices, your leadership, and your legacy. Return often because the fire is always here for the stories, the lessons, and the wisdom waiting to ignite in you. Keep your fire lit, your heart open, and your legacy sacred.